Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. We got another great episode of By the Numbers. My special guest today is Twyla Jones. Twyla, hello and welcome. How are you doing?
Really good. How are you?
Awesome. Where are you based out of?
I'm in Fort Pierce, Florida, so South Florida.
So today, you guys, we are going to be talking about workflow, about mindset. But there's so many awesome private Facebook groups for photographers, but they can be like such a blessing and a curse. We're going to talk today about how you keep your head right. Twyla's got some great tips for how she used private Facebook groups to build her confidence and then build her reputation and her style, and so many things opened up after that. We're going to give you some good tips to navigate the downsides sometimes of comparing ourselves to the wrong people at the wrong time on Facebook, and how, as creatives, how dangerous that can be. We're also going to dig into some of Twyla's awesome tips for managing workflow, for how you want to up-level your editing, and also choosing the right time and the right place to outsource the right things in your editing. It's not a black or white thing. I'm going to help you guys dig into choosing the right pieces to edit, and also coming from it with a place of expertise and confidence with your edits. Twyla, I'm so excited to have you on. We're going to cover a lot. I'm going to go ahead and play the intro, and then we are going to dig into it. I am such a nerd.
So good.
God, that was so
I
fun.
love
That's the first time I got to do that. I hope
I love it.
came out. All right, so let's start at the beginning first. How long have you been a professional photographer? How long have you been in
I
business?
took my first client almost 5 years ago in April.
Okay. So I like asking people that moment when they decided that you wanted to start charging, that like you could actually charge. When was that? Do you remember what that was like for you?
Well, it was immediately. So I didn't ever decide I was going to be a photographer. I actually was working at a pathology lab as a histologist when I bought a camera. And it was just because I had 2 kids. Like, a lot of people get into it right after they have children. So I bought a crop sensor and was taking photos of them, posting them on Facebook. And then I got a phone call from someone asking me to take photos of her son for his birthday. And I just, I had been learning a lot, but this like really motivated me to get my stuff together because I wanted to do it the right way. I just observe a lot. And so I knew that there were other photographers around me, but doing kind of like the classic, like posed on hay bales, family photos, like kind of what like a mini session often looks like, So it's just the same thing over and over. So, anyway, I just kind of figured out the bare minimums I needed. I needed to get Lightroom. I needed to get a proper like laptop. And it was like, that was tax season, April. So I just invested like my whole return into like those bare minimum things.
Just
So
like
I got rid of the kit lens and bought a 50 millimeter.
Yeah.
I stumbled into probably some business groups. So I knew like I was learning about the IPS model right away. So I just charged that session fee, and then knew I would like need to.
So wait a second, you're doing all of this. You get like 1 or 2 requests from friends.
Yeah.
And before you even took that first session, you were like, you didn't even do the first session as a favor to your friend. You were like, okay, I'm going to charge this first friend.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I knew my time was worth something because I had 2 little kids. I had like a real job. And I think one of the luxuries for me, well, and I don't know if you call it a luxury really, but I just like I've never done it and been desperate for money because I always had another income source because I was earning my money. But my time was especially valuable to me because I had to go to work for 9 hours a day. Raise these 2 little kids. So I couldn't just do things like that for free either.
I'm so jealous. I learn things typically in the opposite order, where I need to like fall flat on my face first.
Yeah.
Like let my family fall down around me and then be like, oh, whoops, sorry guys. I was like, I had tunnel vision on how fun this was to take pictures and buy new camera gear that I didn't realize that taking like a $99 session on like 4 of them on a Saturday
Yeah.
was actually not worth ruining a Saturday
Yeah.
and not
Yes.
having that with my family when I then had to go back to work full time during the day.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for kind of looking just around the corner where I definitely was not able to. Okay, so fast forward the clock. You've been at this for 5 years. You've, I think by no accident, I can tell you're not only a good learner, but also a good teacher in the same way that people quickly reached out to you to hire you to take pictures. Other photographers have been reaching out to you for help also in how to create some of the looks you create, how to manage the business. And so you've been mentoring for a while also. How long have you been doing that?
Yeah, I've been doing that for 3 years now.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a good one? I like getting into those good moments, those really memorable moments that like when the firsts, our brain loves to like latch onto those firsts when
Yeah.
you first decide to start charging. I want to know what's a moment for you where you were like one of your students, one of the people that were mentoring, kind of got it and you changed their business and also kind of opened your eyes to your potential as a teacher and somebody inspiring other photographers.
Well, I started by teaching online. So I'd been asked to do a couple of different things. I'd been asked to speak in person at a workshop, and I'd been asked to put together a PDF workshop, so that would just be available online. So before I jumped into that, I wanted to know what it was people wanted to know from me.
Yep.
And if I was any good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of launched these like online mentoring things. So for an hour, you would have me for whatever it was you wanted to ask, and I would just like try and help
just
you
with
whatever.
it. Right. Yeah.
But I felt like when I really started to connect was being able to do that in person and doing the live shoots with other people. Because you just, I don't know, it's very different kind of giving that to them, like these pictures that they've always been wanting to take and just showing them how easy it actually is, you know, because I don't overthink a lot of, like, I produce these very emotive images, but they're not like so overthought like you might think that they are.
Right.
So
do you
that's
have a fun student story that kind of pops out for you at all when you were helping somebody that was stuck creatively or stuck with their camera or stuck with their something, and then you helped them get unstuck?
I do. So I love like technical stuff too, as much as I love like the emotive things. But when I started teaching the way that I have my camera set up, like that, a lot of people have like thanked me so much for that, just making that process easier for them, because I shoot in aperture priority, but with a lot of other. I just feel like you pay a lot for your camera and it can actually do a lot for you. So I'll use aperture priority, but auto ISO and understanding your metering modes is so important. So explaining that to someone, I think has been really amazing. And I just, every time that I teach it and just see those like light bulbs go off, I love that.
That's so cool. Because I think it's so important. You need like a baseline. Like we're all learning our gear forever. We're all learning technically and creative and all of these things. But there definitely is that initial hurdle where in order to be creating these emotive images, you've got to know your camera well enough such that it can disappear.
So you don't have to think about it anymore. So it can get out of your way, and then you can just focus on the moments.
I love it. Now I'm like super, if we have time at the end, I'm going to have to ask you about specifically what those settings are, because my mind's spinning like, oh, how does she handle it? I want to jump to the next big question, is at your peak, and roughly speaking, how many sessions did you shoot last year? Annually, when you're full-time focusing on portraits, what were you at?
For client sessions, I'm going to guess it's around 50. Like my happy place is about one session a week. Like I don't ever want to do more than that.
Nice. So good to know where that's at, and just kind of be content with it. I think that's another amazing milestone. When I talk all year long, I'm talking to dozens and hundreds of photographers who are who are struggling and striving to kind of get over the hump. And then I love talking to photographers that are thriving like you, where they've figured out their workflow and their business piece and their marketing such that you get to kind of pick and choose. And I
Yeah.
think that's where so many people want to end up. And hopefully there's some nuggets in today's show people can take away on how you can kind of get over that hump.
Yeah.
Okay, so now bringing it all full circle, what was your average sale? What do you have that up to now that your business is kind of humming along?
Probably about 1,200 for client sessions.
Yep. And you mentioned earlier when you first got started, you were just like, I'm going to do IPS. I'll have a low session fee and try to make it up with products after the fact. But at year 1, year 2, how did that work? How was that working?
So I didn't last very long with that model, although I love it and I've like studied it extensively. Just certain pricing models work better for different types of photographers and the time that you want to devote to specific parts of your business. Like, what do you enjoy doing? So I didn't keep that up very long because my print sales would be like, $200 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that probably wasn't even taking the cost of the prints out. So I changed to a more inclusive model where I was offering 3 different digital packages.
Okay.
And then I wasn't delivering products anymore. And I experiment with my prices a lot. They're always changing. They're always including different things. So sometimes you get an album and a canvas, with your top order. Sometimes it's just all of the digital files that I've edited. So I play around to see what resonates and, what people are the most grateful for. But it's important to understand who who's hiring you. And at this point, it's mostly photographers that hire me for their sessions.
Okay, cool.
So they already know the companies that they love.
Yeah.
And mostly they're happy to get digital files from me opposed to products.
I love the transparency. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Knowing your client and then experimenting with pricing. I think that pricing is such a emotional, tricky, messy thing. And what I've been spending a lot of time talking about pricing in the last year, because there's this, like, I don't even like football that much, but the analogy fits. There's this where we spend so much time marketing, building word of mouth referral, doing Facebook ads, doing email marketing, all of this stuff to funnel traffic and leads to our business. But then we fumble on the 1-yard line because of the way we talk about our pricing.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't handle that moment, that all important moment of how do we, when people first inquire or ask about our pricing, and you don't do that right, one, you don't book the sessions you should be booking. And 2, even if you are booking and you're still not handling that conversation and that process with grace and confidence, you're not going to sell the amount of products you want to sell. So it's that moment is so crucial. I can't help myself but talk business piece, but we'll come back to that if we have time. I want to dig into some of the things you are best known for and make sure we dig into some of your editing advice and how you've developed the workflow and some of the cool tools you've been using. But first, let's talk about Facebook groups. So they're everywhere, right?
Yeah.
When you were getting started, you had a couple favorites. Are you still kind of dipping in and out of some of your favorite groups online?
Yeah. So when I first started, I felt like I actually remember like kind of typing into the search bar and like literally joining every single thing that I could related to photography. Yeah. But it was also kind of that same mentality of like taking on every shoot that I could just to see what I enjoyed shooting. Yeah. So I wanted to be exposed to like all aspects of the business. I wanted to know how all of the different pricing models, all of the different like types of photography and all of that.
I love that you say it that way, because I think that there's such a, we're going to talk a little bit, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but we're talking about like the different classes of where your first year, your second year of being in business. I think that it's become well accepted best practice as a marketing and a business focus to have one niche, right?
Yeah.
So that it's just easier to maintain all of your marketing, all of your products, your whole workflow, if you just do families or if you just do weddings or whatever it
Yeah.
is, there's some efficiencies there. But I think it's okay to give ourselves permission in year one and year two to just, who knows, like just, it's like going to college, go and just taking a bunch of classes. I don't know what I'm going to like. I don't know what I
Yes.
want to
Yeah.
focus on.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you approached it?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So cool.
And then
So
and just kind of, it's important to find, I think, what comes most naturally to you as far as posing and all of that,
mhm,
because I just like to not try too hard.
mhm.
I want my
That's a,
job to be easy. So whatever was like coming out of me naturally, but also like producing good results was sort of what I went with. Like I just let it lead me wherever it was going to lead.
that's so refreshing. I think there's this like fine line I say between, as an entrepreneur, between like being creative and innovative and just being lazy. Like, it's like what? Why we don't? We life's hard enough, right? Or works. This is we're getting into this creative business, so that it's not a drudge anymore, right? And there's enough
Yeah.
people out there that hate their jobs. So
Yeah.
let's use staying connected to what really fills us up, what
Yeah.
comes easy. I've talked time and time again with photographers who go, oh, I got to do weddings because that's where the money's at in my community. But I just hate the stress of the wedding day, dealing with crazy mother-in-laws or father, whatever. I can't
Yeah.
stand it anymore, but I got to do it. Like, come
Yeah.
on, that's not.
I don't enjoy being stressed out. I'm a very like laid back person.
I love it.
So, any source of like stress in my life, I'm going to cut out. And that one of those is just weddings, like the anticipation of like needing to wake up on time that day because it's such an important day. I don't really want that responsibility. So, I've done my fair share of them, but
Yep.
it's not for me. But
I
yeah,
love it.
some people are
Yeah,
like
so
truly amazing at it.
you're just knowing what you're good at, and I think that theme is knowing what fills you up and knowing what also drains your energy is something we're going to talk about later in your editing process. Okay, so you started joining some groups, joining all of them, and then finding ones that clicked with you. So I think the conversation I want to have is, as a creative, deciding to also make money on our art is an incredibly vulnerable thing to do.
Yes.
Being a business owner is an isolating thing to do, where all of a sudden you've got your spouse, your close friends, your family, whoever is your go-to network, and they don't, unless they're photographers or other creatives, they don't understand the vulnerability. They don't understand the anxiety of making this leap, and what are people going to think? Like, oh, people just, oh, it's just a crazy hobby, whatever. This is just a fad, and all of these things that kind of eat away at our confidence. It's important to have community, and so that's the positive for what I think that this huge surge of Facebook groups. There's so many things I cannot stand about Facebook. There's just so many bad things about it I won't go into, but I think that the idea of the private group is something that Facebook understood quickly as like its saving grace. As everybody loves to hate on it and how terrible it is, there's these little pockets where we're all over like being friends, following like our high school friends and all that trash. Like it's just, let's connect with people that I really care about. And instead of trying to like always keep this like perfect glossy image of ourselves, because we know our customers are going to be on our pages and our walls also, where can we be ourselves really? And I think that's the Facebook group. So what was the positives for you, and why do you think it's important to find good groups?
Well, so I first stumbled upon like some of the larger groups where a lot of opportunities opened up for me in the beginning. Just the recommendation of a friend, she thought my style would kind of fit in really well with, it was the Visco group and Looks Like Film.
Okay.
And what was unique about those groups at the time was they were kind of rewarding photos that performed really well, like that resonated with the audience. So once you got, I don't know, it was like 200 likes at the time or something, you would get a choo-choo and then you'd get featured on the blog. So I would post a few.
Yep.
And I don't remember like those like getting any response. And I also didn't understand how it worked at first. So it took a while to like get it, what was going on in there. But then, you know, one of the first images I posted that did, I found, I don't know, it was just very rewarding to like, it was almost like being acknowledged, you know, and just finding an audience for, you know, people that liked what I was producing. So that was really neat. And I think it kind of encouraged that direction of my work, paying attention to what's resonating with other people. And that encourages you to make more of that type of work. Which, you know, I mean, there's like two things to say about that, like creating for yourself opposed to creating for an audience. But we like to have our work liked. And it's important if you like want to make money off of something, I think, to know that there's an audience for it and producing things that that audience also enjoys. So finding that like happy medium between loving what you do and other people loving it.
Totally.
Is, yeah, what it's all about.
And so I think there's a special moment in there that I want to pull out is this is like, so I think the part you're talking about now is just the importance of building our confidence and while we develop a style, while we find our creative style, getting feedback on that from other creatives versus like,
and it's kind of like finding your people too, like, because there is an audience for everyone, or, you know, that like-minded group of people for everyone. So you just like gotta find it out where they're hanging out. And that's what's so great about the internet and, you know, Facebook groups and things, because it's really hard, especially like, I know I'm pretty introverted and, you know, I hear that a lot from other creatives. So we're all just like hanging out in our homes. Like you can't really go out into the world and like find each other anywhere.
Totally. And I think it's a Facebook group is so efficient. It's easier to find people, and then it can connect you to the in-person conferences, to the local PPAs, the whatever it is that's out there in your community, that you can then make those deeper connections. But let's go to that vulnerable moment. Sometimes, like, it starts with sharing it with our friends and our like my mom or my aunt. I swear to God, she single-handedly like launched my photography career because she couldn't stop like showing everybody my pictures. She literally had me like, I think she booked me like 20 sessions my first year. It's like her whole kids' school. Anyways, so that is like, it feels good to get that validation from like your family or your mom, but like you're like, well, of course my mom's gonna like everything I do.
Yes.
We got to build our confidence a little bit more. Let's share it to our peers. But then you didn't get likes right away. You didn't get it. You didn't get the recognition you were hoping. That's a pretty vulnerable thing. How did you push through those moments?
So it's just important to keep like your perspective right in your mind. So I knew I was like, because this was probably like my second year, like I was just about to find myself. I was just about to figure out what it is that I love to do. And I think when you do that, like when you figure out what it is you're passionate about creating, like literally nothing else matters because you're just doing it. But that path can be kind of like tricky to navigate. So I hadn't quite found it yet when I first started posting. And I guess this like simultaneously happened with like another big life event for me. So when I like was posting in those groups and posting like probably from client sessions, whatever, they were just kind of like, they weren't like standout images. They were images everybody takes at a family session, I think. Like they were fine. The colors look good or whatever, but they don't like stand out. So anyway, at the same time, I was living in Kansas and we decided to move to Florida. And so I had a month left in Kansas, and I felt like I was like, part of me was dying because there were all of these things that I had always wanted to do, all these places I had always wanted to go shoot. Instead, I was taking families to the exact same place, like these trails in the woods, and just kind of like shooting them, like whatever they wanted to wear for their session. So it was very like client driven kind of. So I have a month left. So I bought all these clothes I'd always wanted to photograph and went to all these like some weird places, some just like, cool, like wheat fields and old houses falling down and weird little meadows off the side of the road. So I was just taking more chances. And then I was creating just for me. I was just going out without a plan, without expectations, and just shooting like whatever I felt compelled to shoot in the moment. And then those were the images I started posting that started getting, people are just like, what?
I love it. So what was the motivation to, what was set that clock ticking? You said you had a month left. What was the timer there?
My husband had already moved to Florida.
Got it.
And I was staying actually to shoot a wedding because I wasn't traveling a lot and had these two little kids. Like I couldn't wrap my mind around moving to Florida and then flying back a month later, which is funny because I just am all over the place all the time now. But so anyway, I just decided to stay and live with my sister for a month. And so the other great thing was it was such a hectic time, and I really learned the value of just making whatever it is you want to have happen, just making it happen at whatever cost. So a lot of times my kids would be in the car, whoever I was shooting, like if I was just shooting her, like her kids would be in the car, like right beside us, like watching a movie or something, and we were just doing it. So I was still working full time and just, as soon as I got out of work was like daydreaming about these shoots and making it happen. I think it was good for me too, to like struggle in that way. I'd be at work for those 9 hours just wishing I could be editing or calling or setting up like a client workflow or something, like that's all I wanted to be able to do. Like that was the dream, to just have a whole day to like spend on my business. So that helped put things in perspective for me too.
What I love here is that the opportunity to leave and just go start. There's all this stress that happens. I hear this story a lot where for life reasons, you've got some kind of momentum in one city, and then you got to go start over in another city.
Yeah.
And I've always been jealous of friends who've gotten to go live in a new city because it's an opportunity to kind of just redefine who you want to be, right? Because nobody knows you there. You get to kind of go stake this new whatever is important to you, and you kind of find a new friend group and all of these great things. Again, what I'm hearing you continue to be so awesome and proactive about is there's also an opportunity to do that with like I'm about to leave. See you guys. This is who I really am. I'm just gonna like let my guard down and just do the stuff that I really care about. Because if you don't like it, I'm out of here anyway.
Yeah.
Was there something to that?
And it wasn't even necessarily that. It was like literally all for me, just very selfishly, like wanting to fulfill that like creative desire to like create these images I'd had in my mind for a while. And it's kind of like when you drive past a really like, awesome location on the side of the road, like, ooh, next time I'm going to stop. It's stopping immediately when you see it and doing it. And the funny thing is, the house that was falling down that I took photos in, the next time I came back to Kansas, it was gone because it had fallen apart and they took it away. So if I hadn't taken that opportunity and, thrown all the kids in the car and done this weird shoot there, it would never have been created.
Mm-hmm. So special. Okay. This is so great. All right. So then, let's wrap this up. Any other practical tips when you're getting started and you're participating in these groups for all of the good reasons, for the good confidence building, to vent to each other about how hard it can be. We've got the difficult clients. The clients don't respect our time or our value. It's important to help kind of use the community to rise ourselves up.
Yeah.
There's also a way when we're comparing ourselves at the wrong times to the wrong people that it can really paralyze us and bring us down.
Yeah.
What's your advice?
So I just early on kind of recognized that there are like literally classes of photographers. And when I say class, like think about high school, like there's the seniors and the juniors and just kind of like finding your people in your class as well, like recognizing like we've all been doing this for 2 years and we just learned how to use our cameras and we're kind of getting into our style or whatever. But like you can't compare your work to someone that's been doing it for 8 years. And, you know, when you live in the middle of Kansas like I did, you can't compare to someone that's like getting to shoot in the mountains every day, you know, but you find like what is really important to you. Like you look up to them for inspiration, but like you can't ever like let the awesome things someone else is doing make you feel bad about yourself and where you are in your journey, because you're going to get there as long as you keep doing whatever it is that you love. And the other thing is that I just always think that I think about this a lot. Like you're not ever going to be them. Like you're not going to make those images because they're already doing it. Like there's no point in like wishing like that image was yours or like make art like that, because what you want to do is make art like you're going to make it, you know, and that's what's fulfilling. It's not fulfilling to like copy somebody else's work or copy down this list of poses or whatever. It's fulfilling to find out what it is that comes out of you and create that and then share that with the world.
So good. Oh, it's fantastic. Okay. So just having the right mindset. I love that analogy of just knowing what class you're in, and it's at times it's helpful to have like a mentor, who's been at it for a long time, but to know that it's not about doing the work and taking the pictures like those mentors. It's finding your own path and your own style.
Yeah,
fantastic. Okay, let's talk about workflow.
Yes,
I love one of the things you're super passionate about. You actually have a freebie you've got for all of the listeners and the people watching, where you said you get all excited when a new version of Lightroom comes out.
Yeah.
Some people panic because they're like, oh my gosh, more bugs.
I know, my computer's going to crash.
Yeah. But you love it.
No, I love it. I update right away. I have it set to like auto update now, so it just does it for me. But because I'm not scared, I can roll back if I need to, but I never need to. It always works fine for me. I think it's important to keep like all of your other stuff like updated, your computer and everything else, so things are running like smoothly and quickly. It seems like that's like the problem most people run into, I think you're right. Yeah, everything. There's all of the different pieces, and you can roll back. I like it. That's awesome. Okay, so one of the new big surprises. This is you've got a free training we can link to, but give us a little teaser about what you got so excited about. Okay, so range masking. So it's been around for a little while now with Lightroom.
All right.
I don't know, maybe even like. I don't know if it's been a year yet. It might be a year, but I still find people. So I do online editing mentor sessions and people still haven't even updated to that version. And I'm always so disappointed. I'm like, you're missing out. So what they introduced into Lightroom is it's called range masking. And it's kind of like having a little bit of Photoshop integrated into your Lightroom program. But the beauty of it is that you can batch edit it over a series of photos, whereas Photoshop, you can't batch edit at all. So you have to manually do it every time. But what it is so as an example of one way to use it, I underexpose a lot of my images because what I'm doing is exposing for the highlights. So if my sky is brighter than my subject's going to be underexposed so that I still have that detail in the file. If I blow it out, it's gone. So I want to keep that sky, because that's kind of like one thing I do is like these dramatic skies I really like.
Awesome.
So with range masking, what I can do is drop down a gradient filter and then use range masking to just choose the colors in the sky, and it will mask off of my subject.
Wow.
And then I can batch edit it, so it will do it over a series of photos. So what you don't have to do is go into Photoshop and add a fake sky, or use the gradient filter and then like erase off of your subject over and over and over for each photo. You can just drop that in and it automatically does it for you.
That's so cool. So you can do it for if during a session, there's probably going to be a good chunk that have the same you're thinking about this too in your shooting flow too. So you've
Yes.
got
Yeah.
you got one scene, one pose
Yeah.
or whatever, and you can just quickly bring your unique style into that whole batch.
Yeah.
So awesome. Okay, so the people want to learn more. You've got a free video and you show people
Yeah, so
exactly how
there's
to
a free
do it.
video of me showing you how to do that and using range masking on the sky, and then also like on other parts of the image, because there really are just so many different ways that you can use it. So yes.
So I love it. So for somebody, I love somebody asking this question to somebody like you who's developed such a brand around your edit. And it's so like when people hire you as a photographer, there's a lot of reasons why we get hired, right? The experience we deliver, for some it's the full product experience. It's like sometimes it's hair and makeup and all of that. Other times it's this very unique editing style that just resonates with our audience. I think it's those photographers that sometimes have the hardest time outsourcing, because they're like, nope, no way. It's part of me. It's part of my brand. It's something I can never let go of. I like it. I like most of it still. But whenever there is, whenever you're doing all of it, right? There's a limit to how big your business can get, right? And you kind of put a ceiling on that. So tell me your approach to outsourcing and why. Why outsourcing?
Okay, yes. So there are several different things that you have to acknowledge within your business, like what parts do you actually enjoy doing and which parts do you hate doing. And then you also have to acknowledge where the bottlenecks are. So like what is holding up, like, turning over your images to your clients, what's taking you like a long time in your workflow, or like what's making you not want to sit down at your desk.
Yeah. Ooh.
And then
these questions, yes.
Yeah. So once you've acknowledged that, like truthfully, like, do I enjoy doing this? So maybe, and there are different parts of the editing process that you can hate and other parts that you can like. So maybe it's culling the images, or maybe you kind of like it, but you find, like me, I'm overly attached to the images that I produce. And so then I also give my clients way too many, which also means it's going to take me longer to edit, because now I have a 300 image gallery from an hour session that I have to turn over to my clients. Do they need like every second we were together? But, and it just also acknowledging like you can do it all. You can do everything, but then you can't do anything else. So you can spend 100% of your time on your business and then never see your kids or never enjoy any free time. So that's what you have to let go of. And it is hard. Like, I think a lot of us as creatives are like control freaks. So and everybody that I talk to about, like, because I highly encourage outsourcing the parts of your business that you're not good at or that you don't have time to learn, because there's like a million programs to, like take in to make you like more productive or, be able to like design nicer things or whatever. But sometimes it's worth it to pay someone else. Like, I don't go to the grocery store anymore. I have my groceries delivered. I don't enjoy grocery shopping.
Nope. When you end up going,
groceries to have them brought to me.
Because sometimes it's like, oh, it's going to be so expensive. Like, no, you actually spend less money because you're not tempted by all the garbage. You just you go online, you just boom, 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 pick out the things you want. So you've said so many valuable things. I want to spend a couple more minutes just pulling apart some of these great lessons and start back at the top of doing an honest inventory of what parts of your job that you enjoy doing. Because I think that at the beginning, it's all fun, it's all new, right? So and don't feel like you've got to identify this stuff immediately, but after a couple of years, it's identifying what those subtle cues, like what are you preventing doing, because it just starts to create tension if you're not delivering all your files or products back within a couple weeks. It doesn't create the best experience. It's not going to create because that excitement from your client starts to dwindle, which means your referrals start to dwindle. If you're too busy following up, you're not going to be following up to potential clients as quickly as you used to, which means you're not going to, it's just that ceiling on how big and how fun your job can get. So
Yeah.
taking that inventory of what is giving you energy and what is kind of draining your energy. Okay, I love that part. Then you also said, there's one more thing. Oh, breaking up this idea of editing. So all of the different pieces, say more about the parts you noticed yourself and the parts that you outsource now.
So I noticed that the calling takes me the longest. And I maybe it's just also because I can get bored, like having to go through a few times to
Mhm.
get it down to like a reasonable number.
Yep.
But also being overly attached, I can't like let go of a lot of stuff. So I have an assistant, and I started outsourcing my calling to her. And that's just one of the things that you kind of have to like try it a couple of times to just see
Mhm.
what the outcome's like. So just kind of handing all the files over to her before I ever look at them, and then just seeing if like what she chooses is something that I'm happy with. Like, would
Yeah.
I love to have all of these images? Does this seem like a complete story of the time that I was with them? If so, yes, let it go. Let it go. Get
I
a day
love
of
it.
your life back
Yeah.
and set at them, you know?
So and your assistant's able to do it faster because there's that separation. Like there's that
Yeah, she
emotional
can do it in an
connect.
hour, and
Yeah.
it will take me a whole day.
It's so smart.
And
Okay.
I could call somebody else's images that fast because I'm like,
Hmm.
yep, this one's good, this one's good, this one's good. And then she's also not looking at them the same way I am. So sometimes I can go through, I'm like, oh, if I put this one and this one together in Photoshop, then it would be a really good picture. So then I'm adding more time onto my editing process as well, trying to create these moments that didn't even actually happen.
Yeah, totally.
And instead,
Yeah.
just give them the best of the
So
best from the
so
session.
smart. Okay,
Yeah.
so I want to, again, I like digging into these transitional moments where you decided, if you can remember, what drove you to say, okay, fine, I'm going to, this is the part I'm going to let go of. And I'm going to let my assistant do the calling. What
Well, it
was that
happens
like?
all the time. It's just, like when your kids start getting sad because you don't hang out with them.
Mhm.
And it happens all the time because also the more free time I make for myself, the more I put on my plate.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly having to look at my business and
Oh,
figure out like, what do I need to let go of now?
mhm.
What can I outsource? What can somebody else do for like $10 an hour to allow me to make $250 an hour? Like those are the jobs I need to be focused on, and I need to outsource the small jobs, the grocery shopping and the calling and all of that. And then and also like letting software work for you, because a lot of times you can just implement new types of software and it's like adding another person onto your team. So I use Honeybook for my client
Studio.
management
Yep.
system.
So
Yeah.
great.
And that's a huge lifesaver because you can automate all of it.
Yeah, exactly. All that communication piece.
Yeah.
This is so great. Okay, so in those moments of like realizing that like work was taking up too much and it's time to let go of pieces, I really want to dig the needle in a little bit deeper here in that moment of, okay, I can see how culling is slowing me down. What
Yeah.
advice would you give to somebody? Like, how did you delegate that task? When you know there's some emotional connection and trust it and all of that stuff, how did you say, this is the task and here's how I'm going to delegate it and manage that process?
Well, I was a little bit going back and forth. Like I was just bogged down. So I have, because on top of client sessions, I'm also doing mentoring sessions, so live shoots with other people. And then I'm also doing workshops. And then when I do a workshop, I end up doing like 4 or 5 live shoots
Mm-hmm.
in a week. And we remember I only like to do one a week. So I'm just very behind. Like even still, I'm like very behind on my editing. I've got like all these incredible things nobody's ever seen because I can't get to them. So it was like, I mean, I was desperate. It was like a cry for help. Like these are ever going to get out. Like I need somebody to help me with this. So yeah, so I think she kind of volunteered too. I'd complained about it enough that she's like, let me try.
Just give them to me. Yep.
Yeah. So I just started like putting my because I make a different Lightroom catalog for each session.
Yep.
And so I would just automatically put them into a Dropbox folder that she has access to. And then, whenever she wants, she can just go in there and start calling stuff for me. And then even my husband has called for me. So he doesn't have like a real kind of job at all. So he was just at home one day, and like every once in a while he decides he should work for me. And so I was like, well, I could really use help with this. And I was just like, I was also curious to see what he would do, like what kinds of moments he would pick out from a session. So it's important to find somebody kind of in tune with the same sort of moments you like, or that are familiar with your work. And he watches. So he did a really good job.
So what I'm trying to tease out here is that there's two things I'm hearing. One, and it happens to me, I think it happens to all of us, is I think it's the right time. As much as it's hard to go through this moment, we typically don't hire, automate, or outsource the things in our business until we need to. Like we just got to hit that wall and be stressed and then recover from it.
As many times as I'll tell somebody the right time to start client management software is before you need it. Nobody does. You wait till you're overwhelmed. Yeah. So and don't have time to set it up. Yeah.
Yep. It's in those moments of desperation where you're just like, Uncle, I need help. Like somebody please help. And it's just our most vulnerable. And then we find the people we trust. But here's what's great about this way you did it is it was also risk-free. So while I get that in those moments, it's like, oh my God, I don't even have time to teach somebody how to do this. Because it's going to take me longer to teach them, fix their mistakes, and then this client's stuff is going to be even more late. So what you did is it sounds like it was like a test. You're like, what kind of instructions did you start with?
Well, the really cool thing about that is, so I do have an editing course, and Noella, my assistant, has helped make it available. So, outsourcing other projects to her as well. So she's put it on the platform. So she's been through the entire thing. She's also transcribed it for me. So she knows.
She already knew your process. Yeah.
So now, like literally, if I need anybody to do any part of it, I can just like have them watch my course. So it's already there. Like it's already available to like, this is how you should call. This is how to call efficiently and quickly. So she's able to watch that and then knows my process.
And then you let her try, and then you get to see the results. And you can say, okay, okay, you missed this one. I would want to keep this one, and here's why. And then you hone the process and you're off to the races, right? It's so great that you stumbled across one of the tips I like to recommend. I've been harping on pricing and videos, like one-to-one video recording. Like it is totally changed the way I work. When I'm delegating, when I'm responding to clients, when so much of what we do, I think that's probably the biggest surprise. Like, well, if we could go back in time and tell our rookie photography selves, or somebody who's just starting, like what does it take to be a photographer? I think we always underestimate how much time we're in front of a computer, right? Like we get into this to be behind the camera, and to our dismay, we're stuck behind a computer. Like, wait, I left my day job, so I didn't have to be in front of a computer all day. Like, what's happening? So here is the good news: is that when anything that you do on a computer, I use a tool, totally free tool called Loom, where I hit record in my browser. It records the whole screen or records the browser, records my voice. And if I want to, it'll even record my face, depending on what type of video I'm making. And what that means is anything you do, you can now delegate with a video.
And you don't have to like sit down and make a separate instructional video. Just record yourself doing it as you do it.
Yes, exactly.
No extra time.
Here's how I call. Here's what's going through my mind when I call. Here's why this one doesn't fit. Here's why this one does. And then just doing that. And if it's going to be, it doesn't have to be perfect the first time. Then you just keep honing that process. And what I say now is I use it with all my email correspondence, because whenever you find yourself writing an email to a customer, to a teammate, to a partner, whatever it is, and you're like taking screenshots and drawing arrows, like or
Yeah.
like see my replies in line below, and there's like 8 questions in one long beast of an email. Like, oh my gosh, and the people don't even take the time to actually read it all.
Yeah.
Now, the tagline I love of Loom is faster than typing, right? So now I just respond to emails. I write emails with my voice and my face and my screen. Totally changed the game. I just can't stop talking about it. Okay.
I love that.
We've gone a little long. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Again, guys, we'll post the links below wherever you're watching this. Grab the link to go check out the free course. What else? Anything final parting wisdom, words of wisdom, anything else you want to share? I've had such a blast today.
Like literally do whatever you want. Like that's like the secret to success, I think. I mean, and at least that's worked for me. Just, like really just do whatever you want and like see what that produces, and then make sure that you're enjoying like as much of like your business as possible, and try to like figure out how to keep it to 8 hours a day for you, doing like those most important tasks that you really enjoy, and then let somebody else help you and let somebody else like do the rest of the stuff that you don't have time for and that you don't enjoy. Because, oh, what is this? I have something really great.
Oh, I love it.
This is my little letterboard. I'll probably never change it.
Oh, cool. How we spend
our days is, of course, how we spend our lives.
Wow.
So if you're not enjoying your day, you're not really enjoying your life. So that's really important to keep in mind.
Oh, thank you so much for ending with that. It brings me back to when I took the leap to start Sticky. It was around the time in 2015 before Steve Jobs passed away. He did a commencement speech to the school of Stanford. You guys, you can Google the speech. It's amazing. But that's one of the big points he makes that always resonated with me is there's nothing that will like snap you out of a funk more than realizing that this isn't permanent. Like we only get one life. And our whole life is made up of days, just small days that we get to just create. And he would just check in every morning and say, am I excited to go to work on what I'm going to work on today? And if there was too many days where he wasn't, something needed to change. Yeah. And that always resonates with me. Whenever I'm in a funk, it's like, nope, rip out the stuff that I'm dreading and address it and then get it out. And so I can focus back on doing the stuff that means that's as meaningful and enjoyable, all that stuff. Oh my gosh. I'm like flustered. It was so good to chat with you. So. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Let me see if I can do an outro with I'm so excited with my fun little video intro outro. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Make sure you subscribe to wherever you're listening to this, and we will see you next time.